Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today I want to talk about the recently released Wave 1 DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch. So I just want to go over each of the tracks that were released and just kind of give my thoughts on it. This is just for the ones that the Wave 1. I'll probably do this for each wave when they eventually come out, but yeah, let's not waste any time, let's just crack on with it. So first off, the very first track that you get to play on in this is a level called Paris Promenade from Mario Kart Tour. And this level's alright. This level's actually alright. It's kind of fun. There is an issue that seems to be forming with these ones that are based on real world locations, where the tracks seem quite wide and they seem quite basic. Now, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt that maybe there are more complicated ones, but I also understand that these were designed for the mobile game, in which case I'm expecting some of the tracks to be quite different. But Paris Promenade, essentially, the unique gimmick of these levels is that they're based on on the mobile game they have versions of the tracks, so you have different directions and stuff. This kind of combines all three, I believe, or it combines versions of it. And the coolest thing about this one is that on the last lap you end up going back on yourself. And that's kind of fun, and I think that's what makes this track at least somewhat interesting, because without that, this track is kind of like meh. Like, it's fun that you do have that backwards part, and you know, the level looks nice, the music's kind of fun, but there's not really a lot going on. It's very basic turns, and I'm kind of hoping that we're going to see the easier tracks now, and then later on the waves that come along will get more and more difficult ones. But yeah, it's not a bad start to the DLC. Like I said, it has that interesting thing where you go back on yourself on the final lap, and there is, you know, shortcuts, a shortcut and stuff. Like, it's an okay track, but it definitely, you know, it starts off on an okay note. Let's just say it's decent enough, but it's not anything to shout about. And then we follow up with Toad Circuit from Mario Kart 7, so the one from the 3DS. Now, this is an odd choice, and it's kind of weird that this wasn't the first track, because this is like your standard like Luigi circuit, Mario circuit, you know, the track that you always expect to be the very first track in a game, and it is, I think, in Mario Kart 7. The problem here is there's the same issue, is the track feels massively wide, and there's nothing really going on. There's a couple of tight turns, but because you have Paris Promenade first, there's actually no reason to have this Toad Circuit track. It feels like Paris Promenade was meant to be this track that kind of put there as a very basic track. And this doesn't have anything interesting. It has like one jump on the second lap where you can go over the bridge where the track crosses over, but that's about it. It's really not that interesting, and that's why part of me is thinking, well, okay, maybe they're just pulling from easier tracks to start with. But yeah, Toad Circuit is like, it's not the greatest start to this pass, is it really? And I think that's kind of my overall thoughts for this wave, but you know, I have high hopes later on. But yeah, Toad Circuit is just your standard Luigi circuit, Mario circuit, Peach Raceway, you know, all the kind of ones that look like a go-kart circuit. It's just, this has nothing interesting about it. The music's the best part about it, honestly, and it looks kind of nice, but yeah, it feels very basic, and I don't think they needed to put this in this pass, so yeah. Then we do have, up next, we do have Choco Mountain. Now, I'm not a big fan of the N64 levels, but I will say Choco Mountain was one of the few levels where I was like, oh, I kind of like this level. And I kind of like what they've done here to a degree. I think the level is interesting enough. The only downside is it feels super short compared to the old games. It's almost like they kind of slightly condensed it. I had to go back and watch what the original track was like, and even the DS version, to see what that was like, because the ending feels very different. But I do like the fact that you you start off, you go into a tunnel, you come up and around, you shoot out of the tunnel, then you have the boulders, and you come around to the end of the lab. It's actually not bad. It's not a bad track. I like it. It's nothing super exciting, but at least it's more interesting and has at least some hazards, unlike the first two tracks, which, you know, Paris does have a big piranha plant, I guess, and it has the unique part where you go back on yourself, but compared to Toad Circuit, like, I think Choco Mountain is a much more interesting track, at least because it has falling boulders, and it's fun. You know, there's some danger of falling off the track there, and yeah, overall, this is probably out of the first pack. This is probably out of the three tracks we spoke about so far. This is like the first one that I was like, okay, yeah, I actually kind of like this. I do like Paris, but I also get that it's quite basic. But Choco Mountain, the only downside I think is it just feels really short compared to the original. But other than that, it's actually pretty good. And you know, it's the first one that feels challenging because there's some tight, there's a bigger turn. There is the boulders falling down and all that. So yeah, it was kind of nice to replay that. And then lastly, in this first set of 4 races, you have Coconut Mall. And Coconut Mall is a good track. Like, I don't think there's anyone's going to deny that. It is a really solid track from Mario Kart Wii originally. And I think they've done a really good job here. The only thing that this track, unfortunately, is missing is a lot of the charm that it had back on the Wii. The structure of the track, the layout, all the things you expect. If you know the track, you're going to be able to do this. Great, but because it was on the Wii, you had Mii's driving cars at the end, which no longer exist. That Shy Guys in the cars, those cars no longer move. There's a big signpost missing from the end. There are things, I get that because you have to fly down on it now. But there are parts of this that it's the basic track is there. I say basic because it's not basic. The track that you know and remember is there, but the charm and some of the elements of that track that might have been purely cosmetic are kind of gone, and the difficult part at the end where you weave through the cars, completely static now, and that unfortunately does not elevate this to the same heights as how good it was back in the day. But it's still Coconut Mall. It's still got the fun, the escalators. You've still got like the tight turns. You've got the slight multi-path parts of the track. It's a really good track, and out of all 4 of the first ones, easily the best track out of the first set of 4 that they've done. It probably goes Coconut Mall, Choco Mountain, Paris Promenade, and Toad Circuit. These 4 tracks alone, like if this was all we got, right, and not the other 4 tracks, and this would be like, oh man, this would be a poor start. But right now, like with the 4 tracks we've gone over, Coconut Mall absolutely the best one, and then Choco Mountain. But the other 2 tracks, kind of a bit lackluster, unfortunately. But like I said, I feel like this is meant to be like the main game. This is meant to be the basic tracks, and hopefully over time they're going to ramp that up. And we do see that in these next set of tracks. Starting off though, unfortunately, we have Tokyo Blur, which is another track from the mobile game. This is the worst track in this pack. I think a lot of people have been saying this online. It's just boring. There's literally nothing to do on this track. The most interesting element is the fact that there's thwomps. I guess you could say each lap is you go a different way, but there's nothing here. It's just driving down a highway. That's essentially what it feels like. Yeah, I have very little to say on it other than this track is incredibly boring and probably one of the most forgettable Mario Kart tracks I've ever played on. Like, even Toad Circuit at least feels like a like a raceway that go-karts has that theming. The theme of that track alone is more interesting than this. Tokyo Blur, like, it is just awful. It's just, that's the thing, it's not even like super awful, it's just boring. Like, that's the problem with it. It's so unmemorable, this track, that it's just like, why is this here? Like, why didn't you just, I don't know, do something a bit more crazy with it? I don't know. Add more thwomps to the track. Do something. But again, probably because it's on the easier side. However, it is followed up by probably my favourite track of the entirety of this pass, which is Shroom Ridge, which is from the DS Mario Kart, so Mario Kart DS. And Shroom Ridge is great, and I love this level for 2 reasons. 1, I love tracks that have vehicles you have to avoid, like real-world vehicles, essentially. And 2, this track just is so fast to play on. There's so many tight turns, you get to boost and drift as to your heart's content. I really like this track. I do think, again, it's maybe on the simpler side, but honestly, like, I'm kind of glad it's here. It's a lot of fun. I think it's quite a good track to have back and forth on. I enjoy being able to get to that maximum boost to get around the corners. If you pick the right vehicle, oh, it's lovely. You just get around those corners so tight. You come out of the corner with a boost, you're instant to another drift. But you can basically drift the entire way around. And this is absolutely like a highlight for me personally. Like, I have nostalgia for this, so being able to play on this track again was great. And I recommend, like, if you just want to get really good at drifting and like feeling satisfied from drifting around a track, this is like the perfect one for it. Next up, after that, we have Sky Garden. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really care so much for the Game Boy Advance game. Like, I think it's got some cool levels in it. I think Ribbon Road and the Cheese Road, or whatever it's called, in the main game were awesome. But Sky Garden, like, the music's fantastic. I'll give it points for that. Awesome. But, like, this track's not like, it's not like Tokyo Blur where it's, like, forgettable. It's just, I just don't care for it. I actually think it's better than, some of the other tracks. It's better than Tokyo Blur, it's better than Toad Circuit, it's better than Paris Promenade, but it's also really short and it doesn't really do anything particularly special. Visually it's nice, musically it's nice, but again, just on the simple side. And yeah, I don't think this is that memorable compared to, I think people remember this track, but like I don't have any nostalgia for it, so I'm like, I'll just go play Cloud Top Cruise. That's got a better aesthetic, similar kind of theme. But I don't hate it. I don't hate Sky Garden. I think this is probably one of the tracks where when it comes up I'm like, oh yeah, this is fun. Again, it's quite a fast track, so that's quite good, but that's about all I got to say on it. I don't really have much to say on Sky Garden other than like it's not as bad as some of the tracks, but it's not great either. I hope that if they pull any more Game Boy Advance games, and even back from the thing is, I love a lot of the SNES tracks, but that's because I played them. There's a lot of nostalgia bias in this. So if you like Sky Garden, then fair play. It's just not. It just does nothing for me. But luckily they finished this Wave 1 off with Ninja Hideaway, which is easily the best track in this. Like, Shroom Ridge might be my personal favourite, but Ninja Hideaway is probably the best track. It doesn't say it's from Mario Kart Tour, even though it was in Mario Kart Tour before it was in this, so I don't know why it's not tagged as that. But essentially, this is really difficult. This is like more difficult than any of the other tracks here. A lot of square turns, a lot of tight turns, multiple pathways the entire level. There's traps on this level. Literally, like this is basically what saves the entirety of this Wave 1. Is Ninja Hideaway. You have an upper route and you have a lower route, and on the upper route there are like some tight turns, a lot of like jumps with the hang gliders, and just maneuvering between that. On the bottom it's not quite as crazy. There is one part where you've got these shurikens going up and down in the ceiling. If you're above it, you're just on top of that, but you can't like drive into them. But the most obvious thing with this track is the theme being like the Hideaway thing. The music's absolutely bonkers, but there is so many tight turns here, like very a lot more narrow parts. Very good level for like combating on, and honestly, like I'm really bad at it. Like normally most Mario Kart levels I can play a couple times and that I'm okay, but this level I still struggle with, like just learning it, and I need to go back and play it, and that's a sign of a good Mario Kart level. Like I'm genuinely having fun with it, even though I'm really bad at it. And I really want to like practice and time trial and kind of nail it down. But yeah, this track's just awesome. Like when you actually get to drive around it and start figuring out, and there's even a shortcut that I haven't actually spent time messing with yet. But yeah, just the fact that it's multi-routes, and this is the sort of track that's going to have a lot of back and forth on it. This is probably like kind of like Rainbow Road level of like craziness, where like some tracks you know that you're going to be pretty good at and you can probably win it most of the time, but like, you know, Rainbow Road's always the great equalizer. And then there's like this track as well, which isn't as bonkers as Rainbow Road, but there's just a lot of tight turns, and banana peels are quite evil on this track depending on which routes you take and things like that. So all in all, I'm very impressed with what Nintendo have done with this. I will say, like, I accept that I think that overall this Wave 1 was okay. This isn't fantastic, this isn't great, and a lot of it's going to come down to the tracks that you personally enjoy. And in this, you know, I like some of these tracks, but there isn't like an absolute blast from the past that like sticks out to me. You know, we haven't. For me personally, let's give you an example. For me personally, I want to see Waluigi Pinball. That's instantly going to be like, yep, this is great, best thing ever. I love that track. Or GameCube levels, like that's the stuff that I want to see. I think this is an okay start. I do think Wave 2 needs to be significantly better though. I know not every wave is going to be incredible, but right now, all I can say is that this wave is okay. And you know, in the long run, 48 new tracks, that's a lot of content for 20 quid. But I think I'm starting to see a pattern that the tour tracks are probably going to be, except for Ninja Hideaway, which is legit good. So far, the named places, like the real world places, seem to be pretty average to quite boring. So here's hoping that the other 3 tracks that they keep putting in each one are interesting ones, and they are tracks that people want to see. So yeah, there's my thoughts on the Wave 1 for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring out next, which probably come along in June, I would imagine. So that'll probably be the next time we bring them out. But yeah, it's okay. It's an okay start. Let's hope Nintendo really does pull out the big guns for the next one, because we really need good tracks next. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. As always, if you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content, then hit subscribe. Links for Facebook and Twitter will be down below in the description as always. And until next video, I will see you then.